In this lesson, we're going to be discussing how to make a trend line, to draw a trend line on a scatter plot, and also to write the equation of the line. So when a scatter plot shows a linear association, you can use a line to model a relationship between the variables. The trend line is a straight line that comes closest to the points on the scatter plot. So here's an example of drawing a trend line. Joyce is training for a 10K race. For some of her training runs, she records the distance she ran and how many minutes she ran. Let's make a scatter plot. So again, the independent variable is the distance that goes on the x-axis, and the time goes on the y-axis. So for a distance of 4 miles, it takes her 38 minutes, so we'll give our best shot of getting that point. For 2 miles, it takes about 25 minutes. 1 mile, it's about 7 minutes. Another time, 2 miles took 16 minutes. 3 miles, 26 minutes. 5 miles, 55 minutes. 2 miles took 20 minutes. 4 miles took 45 minutes. And 3 miles took 31 minutes. So we have what looks to be our scatter plot. To draw the line, we want to use a straight edge. And we want to draw the line that has about the same number of lines above and below it, and ignore any outliers. It's going to be very hard to do on this presentation, but I'll do my best. All right, again, straight edge works best. But you want to use about the same number of lines above and below it. So using the trend line to predict how long it would take her to run about 4.5 miles, which would be about right here. And so it looks like it would take her about 45 minutes. Okay, so how well does the trend line fit the data? It looks like all the data points are close to the line, so the data shows a strong linear association, so the line should fit very well. Okay, so I'll write that down. All data points are close to the line. Okay, do you think that you can use a scatter plot to shows no association to make a prediction? And the answer would be no, because if you have no association, there's no relationship between the variables and there is no pattern. So we cannot predict. But when we have a line of best fit and it is a strong association, we can make a prediction. Okay. take a look at another example, or more specifically, how to write an equation or finding the equation. So in this case, the scatter plot shows the relationship between the number of chapters and the total number of pages for several books. Draw a trend line, write an equation for the trend line, and describe the meaning of the slope and y-intercept. So we're going to draw a trend line. Again, you want it to be with about as many line dots, points above as below. And you want to use a straight edge. Then you want to find some points. So let's see, it says it goes through 2 of the data points, 5 and 50. Okay, and identify another point. I'll go ahead and use, say, 17 and 170. So find 2 points. What type of an association does this scatter plot show? It is a positive and it's linear. Do you expect the slope of the line to be positive or negative? Well, we expect it to be positive because of the positive association. So find the slope. Now we'll use the information from those 2 points. So we had, remember y2. y2 was 170 minus 50, and then y1, or x1, was 17. So 170 minus the 50 is 120. 17 minus 5 is 12. So our slope is going to be 10. So using one of the points, so for the equation y equals mx plus b, use the slope and the point 5 and 50 to substitute it in to find b. And we've done this before. So we'll go ahead and use the 50 and 10 times 5 plus b. So we'll get 50, we have 50. We'll subtract 50 from both sides, and you get 0 equals b. So you'll get 10x plus 0, and that just means that it's a proportional relationship going through the origin. The constant proportionality is 10. This also means that there's an average of 10 pages per chapter. Okay, and in this case, with having a 0 intercept, what is that meaning? Well, it kind of means that the number of pages, and this makes sense, in a book with 0 chapters is 0. Okay. So the last thing we're going to do then is make a prediction. Let's go ahead and use the last example. Use the equation of the trend line to predict how many pages would be in a book with 26 chapters. Is this prediction an example of the interpolation or extrapolation? So let's kind of define what those are. When you use a trend line or its equation to predict a value between data points that you already know, you interpolate the predicted value. When you make a prediction that is outside the data that you know, you extrapolate the predicted data. So let's look at example 3. In example 3, this would be an extrapolation. You have the equation of your trend line. You're going to substitute in that value for x. You know it to be 26 chapters. So you simplify. I predicted the book with 26 chapters would have about 260 pages. So use the equation to predict how many pages will be in a book with 14 chapters. Okay, so we want to know, is this prediction an example of the interpolation or extrapolation? And this is interpolation. Because you're predicting values between data points that you already know. Okay, based on the information given in the data table and on the graph. There are, we can look at the graph and see it. The previous example was outside of the graph of information. So again, we write our equation of a line, 10x, substitute in the value for x, we get 140, so there'd be 140 pages. How well do your new points fit the original data? They fall pretty close, so they fit well. Do you think that an extrapolation or interpolation is more accurate? Well, an interpolation is more accurate because the predicted value fits between known points where the trend is known. There is no guarantee that a trend will continue beyond the graph of the data that we have. So if you looked back to the original graph of this data, what they're talking about here is because we have data that is graphed and we can see the actual trend happening through 20 chapters. So we have more reliability, I guess you would say, with the information and the prediction for the 14 chapters than we do for the 26 chapters. Now, there's no reason to believe that it won't follow the same pattern. However, because it's we don't have it graphed, we don't have a visual on it, we would say that the interpolation is more accurate than the extrapolation.